Check 1, 2. Check. 5, 4, 3.
Welcome, everyone, and pull up a seat at the table. It is Lunchtime in Rome. Tonight is episode 159 entitled Douglas Bentley. Douglas Bentley has a 45-year friendship with Jay. He has an amazing marriage. He is a great father. He has coached many young men. He's a proud veteran of the Air Force. He has a relationship with the city of Atlanta, Dekalb County, as a police officer for 26 years, rising to lead the Atlanta 911 call center. We'll be talking about all of that and his greatest relationship tonight. So pull up a chair at the table and join us. First-time listeners can subscribe on your favorite podcast app or listen directly on lunchtimeinrome.com. While there, you can take our relational needs questionnaire. Make sure to follow us on all social media, and it would be great if you gave us a 5-star review. Jay, what specifically is this podcast about?
Being alone is the worst. Good times aren't as good, and bad times are worse when you are all alone. Romans 12:15 says to rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. That is how you keep people from being alone, and what this podcast is all about. We demonstrate that in the first 15 minutes or so of the podcast, and we talk about it for the rest. So while it may not be 12:15 in Rome, we're treating it like it is Lunchtime in Rome.
Hey, guys.
Oh, what's up?
Yeah, I'll go first. So, I am pretty bummed.
Oh,
Come on.
Yeah. My arm still hurts.
nah.
And here's why I'm so concerned about it.
Push-ups.
Oh man, that's no. I know Douglas here would tell me to do it, but
You gotta do push-ups.
yeah, that's the solve.
It's been like this. the simplest doctor's office ever. I mean, my spleen's big. I push up.
Push-ups,
Push-ups do everything.
But it's still hurting, and I'm discouraged because not because I'm worried about my arm and its condition. It's we're going on vacation.
Oh yeah, it's the worst time.
There's disc golf gonna happen. There's disc golf throughout the summer. Disc golf, at the end of the summer trip, all that. So I'm just discouraged about it.
Yeah.
I'm bummed. So it's I think I'm still gonna power through regardless of
Power
whatever
through. Just
it's
power
I'm gonna power through. I just can't do what we did on the disc golf trip. We did 5 courses, whatever. It was crazy.
90 holes in 3 days.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, it went numb eventually.
I did.
Yeah.
When we played Northern Boundaries, when we were on hole 15, I was I can't believe it, but you know what? It feels okay. It's I don't know, the blood got flowing, and it was.
Well, no, you finally snapped and severed parts of it that
yeah,
actually you needed, but yeah.
Yeah, it don't matter. So, but
You're
it is painful, and it was really hurting on Sunday when I was drumming.
I saw you.
Oh.
Yeah,
Shaking it out.
Oh man. So, but I do have another follow up with it. I got two for the room. I got 2 cortisone shots, one in my elbow and one in my shoulder, and it's not really doing anything. So
Not doing anything.
Something's broke.
Yeah. So yeah. So I also have to get an EMG because I have numbness in my hand, which I'm assuming is going to be carpal tunnel. Which whatever.
And there's a history of that in your family?
My mom had it. She's been office administrator, secretary, all her life. So just a lot of typing growing up. She had typing classes, back in her school days. So she's been typing forever. So, but yeah,
And you also do a fair bit of typing for your job.
And on my phone, and I play video
Right.
games, and that kind of stuff. So, I am excited. I made a decision this week.
Oh.
Yeah, and it may not resonate as much in this room, but for all you geeks out there,
Oh, all right. I'll sit back.
That's me. I'm listening. You got me on the edge.
I'm going full PC gaming, and
wow.
I bought a 3080 Ti.
Oh yeah, you're
card.
in. You're in
Yeah.
deep now.
It's a video card that I'm waiting for Elon to call me. If he needs something launched into space, my computer's going to be able to do it, and I'm very excited. So I sold some stuff. I made the decision. I was actually talking to Duke, who sits at the table with us weekly, and has been a guest on the show. And I just got to talking, and he just kind of motivated me to do it. And
I got something for you.
all right.
You got the VR?
Not yet.
Oh,
Not yet.
I got the Oculus.
Oh yeah, that's cool, man.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna get that.
But
Wait, so Duke's into gaming?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the other thing is, we had a power outage the other night, and it fried my PS5.
Oh no!
Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Really? Well, see, that was God's way of saying it's time to go PC gaming.
Well, I did send it back. I sent it in for repair. I got to pay for it, but I sent it in for repair. But I'm going to toss that in the living room, and it's going to be like media, video game system in the living room. So I know.
It's so funny how fast technology moves. It's like the PS5 was like so coveted.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, it's
and now you're like,
it's
I'll
me.
run a movie on it.
yeah.
I'll let Maggie watch, Blippi on it.
Hey, you can always watch Disney Plus.
But honestly, man, I am so excited about it. Like, and the stream. Like, you should see the equipment that I was able to get rid of because I was streaming like using my console and the PC. I got there was a stack of wires like a foot thick of just stuff that I needed, and I don't need it anymore.
Well, that's exciting
I am
because
very
you've gamed
excited.
your whole life. I
Yeah.
mean, you have a ministry around gaming.
Yeah,
And for you to make such a big switch.
yeah,
I like it. I like it.
yeah.
I like it.
So
I like it.
I guess I will go up next. I wanted to talk about the sous vide. We didn't talk about last night, but I did the pork chops. And, first of all, I got a sous vide for my birthday last month, and Eric got
It's been a minute since we've talked about sous vides.
yes,
Right.
Which, Douglas, you familiar with sous vide?
I'm not.
It's water immersion cooking. So it regulates the water temperature. And so you put it in a vacuum sealed bag, whatever protein or vegetable if you want. And so you want your steak at 137. Well, then you put it in at 137 for as long as you want. It just gets softer, and then you sear it at the end. Perfect cooking. It's a cheat code.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was great. The pork chops turned out great. I mean, I think I would do... I don't know what I'd do differently next. I think I wouldn't sear them quite as long. I think I'd sear them a little too long. Which you told me about.
Right.
Said don't sear them too long. And I was like, I'm going to sear them too long.
By the way, the perfect sear is you do the cast iron skillet.
yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's it.
But then you have another cast iron skillet. You put the foil over the protein, then you put the other cast iron skillet on top. So it presses it down.
Do you have
It's
to
an
heat,
even
do you
sear.
have to heat both up?
No,
Okay.
because you're only searing the bottom. But the problem is, when I have thicker pork chops, this little bit's touching, this little bit's touching, whatever
That's
else.
always the pork chop.
So you put it on top, the cast iron skillet on top, weighs it down, you get a flat sear.
So do you sear it for like a minute aside?
I don't know. And my sear game's weak.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that though.
Wow.
But you'll figure it out.
Yeah,
the
it seems
basics,
to
and then
be,
now
Because
you
how
put
much
the feel
oil
for
you
it.
putting in? You put a little bit of butter too to brown it up a little bit.
Yeah, I like a little butter.
I never.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, my oven's or my stove's
So-
kind of slanted.
So you don't just pour out the juice from the bag?
No.
Oh.
Wait, pour it out into the
Into
pan?
the skillet?
No.
Oh.
No, you
Because
should-
that'll cool it down. You
Oh.
want to pick it out with tongs.
Well,
and then,
there's
place it
something
in.
to that too. There's
drain
ways you
it.
can recycle the juices in the bag.
That's true.
Mhm.
It's never worked for me because there's some impurities in there that you shouldn't just heat up.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
going to make you sick. It's just
Right.
not the best flavor.
Right.
But there's a way you're supposed to put it through cheesecloth or a fine mesh this or that because then
Okay.
you can basically have like an au jus or a gravy.
Well, the next time I do it, it's going to be better.
And they always
'cause-
say dry it off, put it into hot oil, zap zap.
Okay. All right. Good tips. I also got a new car. I went through Carvana,
Bam.
and it was a great experience. I would recommend Carvana to anybody. Based on my experience. But you have to be. They walk you through step by step, and it's very simple. And they give you time limits, but you have to do the steps when they need them to be done. I talked to one human being one time for about 5 minutes through the entire process. So from the time that I said, this is the car I want, and purchased or made my choice, to the time where it came to my house with a human who actually, did drive it, I talked to one human being, and the whole entire experience was pretty pleasant. So would highly recommend it. I love my car. It's a stick, which is fun because I haven't had a stick in, years. I used to drive one all the time. And it's been a good experience. And then I'm going away this weekend with Lex. We're going camping. We're going to see Goose, my favorite band at the current moment. And
Middle of nowhere, Ohio.
Middle of nowhere, Ohio, Thornville, Ohio, and
Yeah, it's camping.
it's a concert venue, kind of like a smaller version of like an amphitheater, like Star Lake, and they don't have the seats. It's just it's the stage and then concrete and then all the field.
What's the venue called?
Legend Valley, and
What legend is from there?
I know the Grateful Dead played
Or
there.
is it a legendary valley?
It's a legendary venue.
Okay.
But we're going Friday afternoon. We're going to set up camp. We're going to see Goose play Friday night, hang out all day Saturday. and then see Goose play Saturday night, come back Sunday morning. It's going to be a great time
There's a lot going on
to
there.
spend with her. Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, that's going to be, and that's a lot of alone time.
Comes with
Yes.
the dinosaur too.
It does. Yeah. Sometimes
there
it
it
comes.
is.
Man,
Sometimes it
Maggie
comes,
would love this place.
depending on what drugs are on, it comes alive.
That's really nice.
I am in a time of transition. You know, now that volleyball's over, school's just about out. You know, I'm in that, like, you know, from running 110 miles an hour to you kind of wake up and you're like, all right, what are we doing today? You know, and I was like, all right, I got to get back to the disc golf course. And I went and saw Red Dave there. He was talking to somebody in the parking lot. He's like, well, I can help you. And we were helping. And
This is today, or
Monday.
okay.
But given where we've just been playing all those different disc golf courses, and then I played Monroeville with Rachel on Sunday, walking our course, I was like, ours is in better shape than anybody else's. You know, and I was like, well, there isn't even that much to do. Now, I did rip down some vines that we'd killed last year but couldn't pull out of the tree. And then these 2 dead branches that I was like, they're going to fall on somebody. And I was being super careful. And the one just fell, and like it was like a grenade. It like just exploded into a million pieces and kind of hurt my finger. But I'm going to pull through. But see, that's the time I wasn't alone. So I could have been stupid, and I wasn't, and I still got hurt.
So the point is, just be alone in the woods.
Just do what you got to do, man. Just, if you got to climb up a tree with a running chainsaw, you got to do what you got to do. I mean,
No, ladder is the best way to do it. Be on a
with
ladder.
like a rock under the shallow end.
Do you at least check in with somebody though?
Most times.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
You got to come to ours in Atlanta. We have a disc golf course
You have the disc golf centers down there.
at Alexander Park. I'm not sure if you can pull that up.
We should look it up.
Alexander Park. They have an amazing disc golf course. It used to be a farm, and they converted it into a park. And
But the World Disc Golf Center's down, like that's where they just had the first major of the year, is down in Atlanta somewhere. I mean, there's obviously a lot of courses. But so then today I was grilling. Oh, that's my other thing. You know, price of meat's going up. I eat a lot of meat. And I was at Sam's, and I looked, and I was like, wait a minute. If you buy a full brisket that's prime, not choice, prime, that's as good as it gets, is prime, it's $3.99 a pound. Well, ground meat at Aldi now, I think, might be $4 a pound, and that's Aldi ground beef. With all due respect to Aldi, you know, like it stays pink longer than it should. You know what I'm saying? So, problem is you have to buy a 16-pound brisket. Well, so I bought myself a 16-pound brisket,
wow.
and I spent 45 minutes yesterday cubing it up, grinding it up, grilled myself just on the propane, not charcoal. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy, it is a world of difference. It is so good. It was so good. But while I was out there, I noticed my own trees wrapped in vines, 4 of them right in my front yard. And I mean wrapped in vines. So I started cutting those out, which is going to make them disgustingly ugly because the vines go all the way up and cover the tree. So now I've killed them.
Right.
That's all going to die.
Right.
But little, you know, just trying to help out around the house.
Yeah.
That's all I can do. So, with that being said, my man Douglas Bentley, my very best friend from first grade,
that's what I'm talking about,
is here with us tonight. Douglas, how have you been? Tell everybody hello. Say what's up.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing today?
We're great.
Great. See, there you go. There you go.
And in the preview, we talked about all of the, you know, this podcast is about relationships. And Douglas has had a billion relationships over the years, and I can make the joke about that, but I won't.
Let's do it.
You know, because he's got one of the greatest relationships is with his wife, who stopped him from having relationships with a lot of other women. She corralled the wild stallion. And you've been married how long?
No, and that's the thing. So I got married in 2003, but at the end of the day, I feel like I've been married since 1999 when we met at Dobbins Air Force Base. And it was just an amazing opportunity. So people ask me all the time, where did you meet your wife? And I say, my wife has this story, so if she ever sees this, she's going to kill me. I say, we met at the free clinic. And everybody's like, ew, the free clinic, like where they do blood tests? I said, well, I was getting a blood test, which was a drug. Well, she was getting a blood test to do her blood typing, and I was getting a drug test. And it was a drug test for the Air Force. I was in the Air Force at the time, and she was going into the Air Force. And she walked in civilian clothes. We were all wearing uniforms, and I was like, uh-oh. you know,
The record went off. The needle went off the record.
yeah, and it's like, you know, and you know, they've got you behind a partition, and next thing I know, I'm like looking over there saying, okay. And so I sit down beside her, and she ignores me and takes her blood test, and I said, okay, let me go and take my drug test, and then I'll talk to her because after your blood test, when they do the blood typing, you have to sit down for like 20 minutes, drink some orange juice or whatever.
Oh, so she was a little lightheaded.
No, not at all. And I said, well, I'll take the drug test and go and pee in a bottle or whatever, and she'll be sitting right there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I look out, and she walks right out and keeps walking out the front door. I said, uh-oh. Throw caution to the wind. I'm not allowed to leave that controlled area. I keep walking. Follow behind her. Said, hey. She turns around like Miss Breck girl.
Breck.
And I said, you know, hey. And, you know, we strike up a conversation, and literally we've been together ever since then.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And we will talk more about that as we go on. But you then spend a career of service, whether it be the military, whether it be for the police, 911. But we want to sort of start towards the end of your story as it stands now. I mean, we don't know what the rest of your story looks like. But you rise to the position of interim director of Atlanta 911.
Yes.
And at this point in time, would you say you're a devout follower of Jesus Christ?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And so you had a chance encounter, and you formed a new relationship out of a terrible relationship. You had a terrible relationship with your boss, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it wasn't really that well.
No. And so what happened?
So in December of 2000, I had a wonderful opportunity to take over the reins of the 911 center from a very good friend, mentor, and life coach
December
of mine.
2000 or 2020?
2020.
Sorry, okay, I was going to say. Like,
And my mentor retired, and my mentor was the person who brought me to the 911 center. He said, listen, if you come, you'll have a free carte blanche, but I need you here because you're very good with people, and you can see that we need your help. And I said, if you call me, I'm there. It doesn't matter who you are. If you call me, I'm going to do my best to get there. And I got there, and I saw, well, there was a lot of opportunities. And I get there, and he allows me to take any class that I wanted to take, which is, you know, I'm a lifelong learner. I love to read books. I love to learn things. One of the taglines on my emails was Incora Imparo, which is Latin or Greek for still I learn.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a good tattoo.
Yeah. And, you know, just always learning. So, you know, get there, and, you know, we're working, and he's been with me since, we've been together since probably about 2004, where I met the man, and he said, yeah, I know who you are. I was like, oh. I'm in the police department. I'm a police sergeant, and he says, I know who you are. And, well, what happened was he used to work for assistant chief of police, and unfortunately at the time I had the dubious reputation of the most tases in Dekalb County Police Department at that time, where they had just issued us tasers, and I tased about 3 or 4 people because I was on the street crimes unit called the Community Oriented Policing Unit, and we were always out in the most challenged neighborhoods in Atlanta, Georgia, and sometimes people don't just want to go. You know, I've got drugs on me, on my person, and you're bucking and fighting, and we're not going to fight that long with you, and you're resisting arrest, and tases happen. And
it's not like you were walking through the mall.
No, not at all. Not at
Bed
all.
Bath & Beyond.
Twirling it like a 6-shooter.
No, one time, the first time I begged the guys, please, because, you know, as police officers, they tase you.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you want to do.
Yeah.
But it's something that's an effective tool to get someone to comply very quickly when they're actively resisting you. So, I tased him. The man shat upon himself, and it was not a great scene. But
it basically resets your body.
Like it does.
It just.
I mean, it locks you up.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll lock you up from the rooter to the tutor. So, one of the things you're wanting to do is just try to say, hey, listen, this is not going to go well.
Yeah.
So let's, work out a healthy compromise. You go in the backseat of the car. We play nice, and you play nice, and we all have a big group hug and say kumbaya, and we'll go about our day. Well, anyway, now I'm in the 911 center, and I'm in charge of it. And the walls are starting to close in slowly, day by day. The walls are starting to come in, and I start to say, I don't really know what's going on, because the fog starts. And I've got this condition called hypercoagulant blood, which I thought was my superpower when I was a child. If I fell, scrape my knee, direct pressure, elevate, I'm fixed. I'm like Wolverine.
Yeah.
Well, that's great when it's on the outside, but when it's on the inside, that's a bad thing. And so with this condition, back in 2012 or 2013, I had been diagnosed with bipulmonary embolisms, which is blood clots in both lungs. They did an x-ray. They saw me. I had some chest pain. They brought me in. They said, did an x-ray. It lit up like a Christmas tree.
Wow.
They said, whoa, you got blood clots everywhere. But they put me on anticoagulant blood thinners and, warfarin or something like that. And 6 months, they took me off of them. Probably should have stayed on some type of baby aspirin regimen or something, but didn't. And here we are, 2020, moving into 2021. I can't see it, but the walls are closing in, and it's getting foggier and foggier.
Like you're literally saying, like in your vision.
Oh, yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Everything. The walls are starting to close in, like you're slowly becoming to be choked out. Didn't know what it was happening because I can still
like
articulate.
you're losing your peripheral
visions, and things are getting confusing. People are talking to you, and it's like womp 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 womp.
Wow.
And by February 1st, it was real bad. And I was
so this would have been 2021.
2021.
Yeah.
I'm talking to my dad now, and I'm saying, hey, Dad, walls are closing in. And he says, well, why don't you go to the doctor if you're sick? And I'm driving to work, and I'm like, no, I'll take some deep breaths. I'll take a walk around the parking lot, man stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that whole day, it was just a confusing day. Next thing I know, I'm dropping my wallet. What's happening is I usually keep my wallet in my pocket, but it's on my left side, and I can't close my left hand. And I'm trying to put my wallet in my pocket, but because I can't feel my left side, my wallet keeps falling out of my pocket that I can't put it in.
Wow.
And people keep finding my wallet. It's like, where's Waldo? They're like, hey, Major Bentley, we director, we found your wallet. It's like, yeah, how'd that happen? And just real confusing. And people are talking to me, and I'm looking at them, and they're saying, are you okay? And, about the third or fourth time I heard that, I called my wife and says, hey, let's go out to dinner tonight. And she was like, okay. We go out to have dinner, and I feel like everybody's looking at me like you guys right now. And everybody's looking at me, and I'm eating my spaghetti. But because of the stroke is really taking effect at this time, I can't taste the actual spaghetti and meatballs, and I'm like, this is nasty. It tastes like snot. But it doesn't. I'm losing my taste. And people are saying, well, maybe you're having COVID. They brought my cousin and his wife, and they're looking at me like sideways, like when people are looking at you and things aren't going right. And then I try to pick up my wallet from the floor that I drop again because I wanted to pay for the tip. And I go to pick it up, and I couldn't close my hand. So I kept picking it up, and it kept falling. I kept picking it up, and it kept falling. They kept looking at me. And then it's like I'm losing time. I'm here with you. And then all of a sudden, they're way down in the room. And I said, what's happening here? And they said, hey, we think you're having a stroke. And I was like, okay, if you think so, but just doesn't feel like that. Well, then the next thing that I know, we're going to the hospital, and we get there in the hospital, and the doctor's asking me clarifying questions, and he's like, well, who's the president? And I said, Biden, and they said, okay, well, what day is it? I said, February 2nd, 2021, and he said, no, he's fine. And then my cousin, who's a Penn Hills grad, his name is Bentley, he looks at the doctor, and he says, this is not him. probably one of the smartest people I know. And if this was him, he would know all the nurses' names. He'd be telling jokes. All of you guys would be in stitches. This isn't him. I'm sitting in the wheelchair, and I'm like, you tell him, brother. You tell him. That's what I'm talking about. I said, this is awesome. I said, you tell him. And I said, this is probably nothing, but, whatever. He said, okay, we'll weigh you back, and we'll do an MRI. No, yeah, an MRI. And then they do an MRI, and then they say, Mr. Bentley, we think you have a lesion on your brain. And I'm thinking, lesion? I'm thinking like a leech, like Rambo. I'm thinking like, just burn it off, let's keep it going. And so the next thing I know, they said, okay, well, we're going to take you in for observation. I'm saying, no big deal. And then I remember the doctor came in the room and said, yes, you've had a stroke.
Had?
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Like, could have had it days or weeks ago. I'm not sure.
Wow.
And she says, but the good thing is you're in phenomenal shape and everything is okay. And I said, dang, because I've known people who've had strokes, and, as a police officer, you roll up on the scene and people are having strokes and people think they're drunk because they've crashed their car. And it seems like they're drunk because they can't really articulate things and stuff like slurring their voice and things like that. And next thing you know, it's like, okay, how bad is it? And they're saying, it's hard to tell. I was like, I don't really like this. And, they're walking me around the hospital and they're saying, can you walk? And I was like, sure, I can walk. I can run. And they're saying, can you hit the steps? And I can run the steps. And they're like, and so the doctors are coming in like, we don't really understand this. We don't really know what's going on here because you have the body of a 30-year-old. You're about to turn 50. And we've never seen anything like this. And I'm like, yeah, because it's me. Of course you haven't seen anything like this. This is just me. This is just what I do. If bad stuff's going to happen, it's going to happen, and we're going to move through it. And, but they had that serious look of concern in their eyes.
They weren't amused.
No, not at all. No one. They weren't laughing.
Yeah.
Had this beautiful nurse. And she says, Douglas, you don't understand. You have an angel on your left shoulder and another angel behind you. Her name was Ayana.
The nurse.
The nurse.
Yeah.
One of the first nurses. And she said, you're going to be okay. Because they're telling me that you're going to be okay. We're just here to protect you. And I was like, okay. I'm looking over my shoulders.
And that's not the language you speak at that point in time.
Yeah, no, not at all. I'm hearing her, but I'm hearing stroke. But I'm hearing her, but I'm hearing stroke. And so, I'm kind of going back and forth. And, a couple days you get out of the hospital. And I go back to what I know. The nurses and doctors told me if you weren't a walker, this would have been devastating. And so I hear that word and I'm like, let me go back to what I know. And right around the corner from my house is Grace Church, non-denominational church, kind of like Jay's church.
It's our church.
Oh yeah, your church.
Our church.
Oh yeah, it is our. Matter of fact, I think we're all here. So our church. And I do what I do. I've been walking this path for years. Get down on my knees, and I start praying and praying and praying and praying. Get me out of this hole, because it's very confusing. You can't move as quick as you can move. Like we talk right now, but when you have a stroke, everything that you do from that to that, you have to think about everything that you've just done. Every word you find, you have to grab and put it together out of your head. And it's the weirdest thing.
It's kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
It is because if you take a step, you have to think about the angle of your ankle on the ground. Everything that you do is a thought process, and you have no idea about that. You don't think that you're doing all this thought process, but you are. And one of the most difficult things that we all do is we drive. And as a police officer, my mind is a motivated license plate reader. I'm like, that's a Toyota Corolla. That's a Nissan rogue. That's a black, and every car that you're passing, whether it's going forward or behind you, in your rear view mirror, you're trying to articulate every make and model of every car, and your brain has to process that and drive.
Mm-hmm.
They never took my license away,
Mm-hmm.
so I drove. Probably shouldn't, but if you don't tell me I can't, then I will. But it hurt.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I did, and I think Jay kind of alluded to that, my wife was a beautiful person. She said, I don't know how I can help you with this because it's a lot, but I know that you're smart enough that you can figure it out. So I'm going to kind of give you some space to just be quiet with yourself and kind of figure this out. So I'm walking, doing my thing, praying, but not really knowing what to pray.
Mm-hmm. This is all new to you. Everything's new to you
all
at this
new.
point. Yeah.
This is all new. I mean, because, and God's talking to me, and he's talking back to me because it's quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as quiet as we are in these microphones. And he's like, you think that I've tried to do something to hurt you. I have not. What I'm trying to do is get you to hear me and only me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, you got my attention now, brother.
Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
I can't hear anything else. I mean, noises were extra noisy. Things, whenever we're walking and you're filtering out, sounds of birds in the background, everything was coming at the same volume. And it was just terrible.
So, like, all of your processing that you'd lived with your entire life has been completely scrambled, and you're relearning how to process all your stimulus and
Absolutely.
how to process the thoughts and actions coming out of your body. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
And the thing about that is just, you had an amazing group of faith, family, and friends around you. My friends and my cousin who went to Penn Hills, his name is Bentley, was just amazing at that time. Because he was like, hey, let's go and walk every day. Probably from, February when I got out to the hospital to March, we walked every day, maybe sometimes multiple times a day. And that helped because you're trying to figure out how to recapture what you think you've lost.
Mm-hmm.
But God's telling you hadn't lost anything. And in March of 2021, I went back to work because of my wife. She said, listen, you can figure this out. And I said, well, the only stimulus and through point that I know that can help me is work, because that'll help me have to articulate faster and have to be able to do some things faster. But the thing about it is the doctors kind of put me on the clock. They said, you got about 6 months.
Before you can go to work, or like to prove yourself at work?
So what happens with a stroke, in the doctors and all the research that I've seen was with a stroke, once you have the stroke, they said to me, you got about 6 months to regain what you lost. After 6 months, your brain becomes hardwired. Thereabouts. You might have up to a year, but it's usually right around 6 months. So I said, I'm on the clock. So I got to go back to work so I can start to figure out how to articulate better, how to be able to put together my thought process better, how to be able to walk better. And it was hard.
Yeah.
It was just really hard, just walking up and down the steps. We work.
So
on
you
the
did
fifth
that,
floor.
though. You went back to work to try to.
And was
figure
that
out.
a humbling thing for you, because you're an officer, you're around people that deal with the hardest of the hardest on the streets and stuff, like, so you're kind of relearning to not relearning to walk, but you're relearning how to do all your faculties, but you also have this status within, like, I would imagine that was a pretty humbling experience for you.
Absolutely. One of the first things that I did when I walked through the door, because nobody knew why I left, because I go to work and I only sleep about 4 hours a day every day, but nobody knew why I left. There were only a few people that had any inkling of a clue on why I left. So when I came back, I set my staff down, all the people who were direct reports, and I set them all down in a room. I said, hey, listen, guys, I had a stroke. I'm coming back, but I just need a little bit of quiet time, and I need you to filter things through At the time, it was our deputy director. Her name is Alicia Guest. And I said, I need for you guys to filter things through her so I can kind of work through this and not have everybody. Because as the 911 director of the most busiest 911 center in the state of Georgia, you're spinning plates the whole time.
Yeah.
We handle roughly about 1.1 million calls for service a year.
Wow.
And that's a lot.
That is a lot.
And there's a lot of complaints to come about that. And this is COVID. So you've got people that are, I don't know if many of your jobs had that great resignation where people were just like, this has been nice. I've got to figure something else because, 911 centers, we got to go to work. We can't just sit at home and work from the house or do something remotely. We have to go to work. And so we're at work and now people are saying, I've got COVID. I don't have COVID. I've got to get tested and stuff like that. So there's a
high stress time.
lot of challenges.
Yeah.
And so we're just trying to figure it all out. And in the background, I can see myself slowly but surely getting better. Like people would say, how do you feel today? It's like, some days are better than others. And slowly but surely, things started to come back in line. In about July of 2021, I went on a beautiful men's trip with a group that I have. It's called E8. And E8 is the place on the board that houses the Black King. And
On a chessboard.
on the chessboard.
I was like, what king is he talking
on
about?
the chessboard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so there's 8 of us in the group. And we named the group the E8 Collective.
That's cool.
And we had a retreat in Snowshoe, West Virginia.
Yeah.
And in Snowshoe, we were just sitting around talking. Now, I couldn't drive to Snowshoe. This is too far for me to drive. I could drive back and forth to work. And a good friend of mine, his name is Shannon Stewart, drove me to Snowshoe. And I said, the whole time driving, I'm thinking, I can't make this drive. I can barely see out of my left eye. I'm quarterly blind. I'm blind from like 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock in my left eye. And we're driving, and you know how sometimes you're on the interstate and the barriers come and squeeze you in because they're trying to move you from one side of the highway to the other side of the highway. And I'm thinking, I'd have hit that truck. I would have hit that truck. I'm sitting in the passenger seat saying, no, I don't think that I could make this drive. And we get to Snowshoe, and a good friend of ours in the EA group, his name is Dejan Levenberry. He taught me about a book. This book is called Stillness Speaks by Eckhart Tolle. And in that book, it talked to you about how to quiet your mind. The book's not that long of a listen. It's not that long of a read, maybe 3 hours at the most or less. I went for a walk, and the book carried me for about 3 reads of it. And I walked into the wee hours of the night. So far, so much that the rest of the group, they were about to send out the search party because there's bears out there.
Douglas had another stroke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I'm walking, and God's talking to me clearly. And he's like, I got you, brother. You just need to quiet your mind so you can hear me. And I keep feeling like something's happening. And as I came back, and everybody's like, well, where you been? I said, well, I just went on a walkabout. The very next morning, I got back, put my earphones on. I saw my friend Patrick. He's a journaler. So he was journaling that morning. And I said, I'm going for another walk. I walked from the top of Snowshoe to the bottom of the mountain. It's probably about 8 miles.
I was going to say, Snowshoe's no joke.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the best for, from what I understand, it's like
Mountain
the best. Well, it's the best skiing on this side of the country, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So, like, those mountains are legit.
Oh, they're legit.
Yeah.
It's 10% grade. I mean, it's like straight up and straight down. But I'm walking down the mountain, and deer are in the road, and they're walking, and they're looking at me in the middle of the road, and they're turning around, and it's like God is talking to me and saying, "Come with me." I mean, he's just, and I'm taking. I swear I've got these pictures of these deer in the road, and they're like, just come with me. And the book is playing in the ears, and the deer are looking at me like, you're getting it. You're getting it. You're going to get it. And all you have to do is listen and follow. And this one deer looks at me. We walk for least a half a mile together, right down the middle of the road. No cars are coming. It's just me and the deer walking down a mountain. I said, I ain't never seen anything like this. And then he just says, you got it? And he walks off. I'm like, I've never felt anything like this. I get back to the house, and I'm like, something just happened. Because I'm starting to be able to see better. My vision's getting more clear. My articulation patterns get more.
However, I am talking with deer, so
Yeah.
it's 50-50 what this could mean.
Dude, I felt like Dr. Doolittle.
Yeah.
I heard him talking to me. I said, I'm not going onto the loony bin. I'm serious.
Yeah.
They're talking to me, and they're like, you're going to be okay. Just like the nurse said earlier. And I get back, and I'm like, I felt okay. And we drive back, and a friend of mine who drove me there, Shannon, and I'm on him now because my articulation's coming back. So a part of my smart buttness.
And this is July?
July.
And the stroke happened like February? Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
about 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing the math,
yeah,
right? Yeah. And Shannon's like using his GPS for everything. And I'm like, dude, why are we using this GPS? I know the way back home. He says, Douglas, could it be that the GPS knows something you don't know, like what's up ahead? And you may need to follow somebody else other than yourself. And I'm sitting in the car like, well, that was pretty profound, but I would have went through Charlotte and not go through Asheville, North Carolina. But that's where his GPS was taking him. Get back in Atlanta. My cousin has her 60th birthday party here in Pittsburgh. I want to go, but I had to work, and I knew I couldn't drive, and my cousin was leaving a day before me. And I go out on my walk in that morning. It's 5 o'clock in the morning now. And I'm walking, and he pulls out of the subdivision at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we meet, and he rolls down the window. And I said, drive safe. And he says, I'll see you. And, you know, and I could see it in his eyes. He wished that I was in the passenger seat with him. It's my same cousin that I've gone through all these walks with.
I think I might have graduated with him.
You did? Well, we all did. Did you graduate in 1989?
No,
Nope.
You're Doug Bentley?
Dion
Bentley.
Yeah,
he graduated with you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're exactly 4 months apart.
Oh, okay. Well, then I did not graduate with him. Never mind.
And you can tell he wanted to throw me in the car and take me, but, you know, just wasn't meant to be. So I get back home later on that night, and I look at my wife, and something clicks inside of me like, I think I can make it back to Pittsburgh. It's like 7 o'clock at night. I mean, it's not at night yet because it's summertime. I said, well, I think I can make it to Charlotte. Now, mind you, this whole time I probably haven't driven more than 17 miles to work and back at a clip. I said, but something's telling me something different now. Well, I jump in the car. Day turns to night. I start driving. Things get better. Get to Charlotte. A friend calls me. We stay on the phone. He's talking me through the NBA finals. There was an NBA game on, and he's talking me through it. Oh, yeah, it was the finals because remember in 2020 how they pushed it back because of COVID.
Right, they're in the dome or whatever it was.
Yeah.
The bubble.
So he's walking me through this game, and I'm kind of getting play-by-play over the phone. So we make it to West Virginia, and next thing I know, we're pulling up to Pittsburgh. And everybody's like, how in the devil H hockey sticks did you make it here? And I'm like, I don't know. I just drove. and, you know, drove back. And as I drove back for the very first time in my life, I decided to do something I've never done. I went another way. And I went the way that Shannon had showed me the week prior. And almost ran out of gas. And I coasted down a mountain and pulled into a gas station. My car at the time had, 5 miles to empty. My car was on 0 miles to empty. And I pulled up to a gas station and filled up. And everybody was like, you're cutting it kind of close. I said, yeah, it's kind of like that. Well, anyway, I get back. Things are still happening in the 911 center. I have this amazing boss who he and I weren't seeing eye to eye. And he told me, he said, we were up for 13 national awards in San Antonio. And he said, if you go and accept those awards, you'll be walking the plank on your career. I said, well, I don't know if you guys saw Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield. I said, I'm going to be doing the triple Indy off of your plank. And I'm going to be doing back salts and somersaults off of your plank. Because I'm going to San Antonio. This is San Antonio represented a place that I said I would never go back to. San Antonio, for all those boys and girls out there, represents the only place where the Air Force trains their basic military training is in San Antonio. So every person who's been in the Air Force trained in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
I was a young guy in 1989 when I went to San Antonio in August of 89. Now this is August of 2021, and I'm walking back through San Antonio. Everything that I said that I didn't want to go back to, he kept bringing me back to.
Mm-hmm.
Get to San Antonio, and I see myself as my 18-year-old self. Friend picks me up from the hotel. He takes me back to the same barracks that I led 50 men at. I was the PT monitor, which means I took my flight out on the military drill pad every morning to start calisthenics. It was an amazing time in my life, because at that time I worked at Farmore.
Yeah, Farmore. Used to be
Remember
Claver.
Love Farmore.
Castle Drug.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I worked at Domino's Pizza.
You probably worked with my mother-in-law,
Really?
Patty Stokes.
Patty.
Yep.
Yeah, I know Patty.
Yep. Yep.
Wait a minute.
She works at Shop and Save in Wilkins now.
I know Patty.
We'll talk.
That's what I'm talking about. And we go through that. We accept these awards, including the Leadership and Technology Award for the 911 Center, which was pretty much the first time pretty much all African American 911 Center won such a prestigious award. We accepted the awards for registered registered public safety leaders, or the RPL designations for 7 of our 911 folks, and we also got a certification for the certified 911 center in reference to our training center. And I come back with all these awards, all happy, and my boss is like, yeah, this is not gonna work. You know, you just don't seem like my guy. 2-hour meeting really didn't go well. You know, if you're in a meeting with your boss and you're in a meeting with them for 2 hours, that's usually not a good day. I get back to my office, and my administrative aide that I worked with, who's my rock, her name is Latrice, and Latrice says, you left out of here very happy, and you don't look happy. I said, I don't feel happy. And she said, do I need to go looking for another job? I said, probably. I went and I got my blood pressure checked. The EMT that checked my blood pressure, another amazing man, looked at me and his eyebrows went up here and said, how we doing, Chief? And he says, yeah, it's a little high. And then he checked it on the other arm and blew it up. Psst, 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 psst. And his eyebrows went up again. I said, how we doing, Chief? He says, yeah, it's you're about to have a stroke. Excuse me? Yeah, your blood pressure's 200 over 100.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I never even heard anything such a number.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, you're at stroke level. Well, as the 911 director, we didn't have any ambulances in the entire county to transport me. I was stable. I was articulate. I was coherent. I knew I wasn't going anywhere. So I said, I'll drive myself. He says, nah, we're not doing that. I'll take you. He throws me in his Honda Civic, and we drive to the hospital. He knows all these hospitals. I said, what's the best stroke hospital they have? He says, St. Joe's. We get to St. Joe's. It's a Catholic hospital, but apparently they know stroke. So we get there, and they treated me amazingly. I had this beautiful nurse. Again, another nurse. She looks at me and she starts to say, "How you doing?" And she says, she goes over in the corner, washes her hands, and she prays. And she says, I just do that before I see any of my patients. And I said, "Would you pray for me?" And she said, "Yes." And she said, "But this is going to hurt a little bit." And I'm like, "Huh?" And she says, "It's going to hurt a little bit." And so she washes her hands. She says, "I got to lay my hands on you." And I promise you, she did like Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, warm him up.
She warmed him up,
Mm-hmm.
and she put her hands on me, and she started praying. And I felt like, I don't know if you guys watch Marvel movies, when Hulk tried to steal the green stone from the protector, and she hit him and knocked him out of his body. I was out of my body. I'm watching myself lay in the hospital bed with her hands on me praying, and I'm like, I never seen anything like this. And she starts to pray, and she says, "No weapon formed against you shall ever prosper. And at the end of the days, those people who were your enemies will be at your footstool." And she said, "Now rest." Now, I come back in my body, and I was like, I don't know what that was. You snap back like a rubber band. I was like, ouch. That did hurt a little bit. And I go, and I try to rest. I couldn't. And I'm looking up at the ceiling fan again, saying, here we are again. Just like the last time. The last time I was in the hospital for 3 days. This time I don't know how long. Well, they said, we're going to put you on a 24-hour hold. All your vitals are fine. Your CAT scan, your CT scan, everything's fine. But me and God had another conversation again. He said, now listen. Everything you asked me for, I've given you, haven't I? I said, yeah. Kinda. And he said, you still want more, don't you? Yeah, kinda. He said, didn't you want to be notarized in this field of police and public safety? Yeah. He said, so you're coming with me. And I retired. Less than 30 days later. October the 1st, I retired. And now, God talks to me every day. And he leads and guides my entire life. And he's like, hey, I need you here and I need you there. One of the places that he said is here in Pittsburgh. He said, I need you right here. And I need you to do everything that you did in Atlanta throughout the course of your career. As a police officer, as a 911 director, I need you to do that here in Penn Hills. One of the things that I designed was this shirt that I have on right now. Who knew? And now people are wearing my designs. And this design was made so I could give back to a child who was a victim of violent crime. And the proceeds for this design goes for that scholarship fund. And one of the things that I know now is this is an amazing life. You know, when the stroke first happened, I said I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy. But now, today, I said, man, I wish everybody had, not the stroke, but I wish everybody had this experience of this feeling that I feel, because it is simply amazing. You know, what we do now is just we go around talking to people and helping them out. I feel like Bruce Banner on the Hulk, just walking from city to city and helping people, new episodes after new episodes. And because I had an amazing job, an amazing career with the Dekalb County Police Department for 26.8 years, it affords me the right to do that. And so here I am. And this is what I talked to Jay about. So Jay's an amazing person in my life, because Jay's like, hey, you want to speak at this? Yep, I'm coming. You know, you want to speak at that? Yep, I'm coming. Hey, you want to be on a podcast? Yep, I'm coming. Because I do know that if he's asking, and how I feel this is, if he's asking me to do something, it's not coming from him directly, but it's coming through him. And that ask then turns and leads and guides me to different things. Jay's introduced me to some amazing people who then have introduced me to some other amazing people. And I can feel the snowball rolling down the hill and things are happening, and I'm very proud that I can be at this place in this time in my life at 51 years old and be able to do what I do, not for me, not for my son, not for my wife, not for my family, but for God. And I just feel amazing that God's touched me in that way, and that he's in my life, that I can help and be that part of where he needs me to be.
One of the most amazing things of your journey is how God has used, I was going to say different people or animals to speak to you. But also, I think it's really significant, the conversations you've had. We only have, we have a little bit of time left. But like, whether it be, Darius or different people who have, or Delili, I'm sorry, not Darius, Delili. Yeah. Different people who have reached out and had those significant conversations with you, refining your calling back to Penn Hills. Yes. And can you just touch on a little bit of that and where you're going forward with that?
Absolutely. So I have a beautiful friend named Delili Hall. Delili and I, just like Jay, were in the same kindergarten class, and we grew up together. Delili has a beautiful mind. I just love her mind, because her mind, while adult, is childlike, where she sees the possibilities of what it could be if we had a beautiful community filled with the same type of love. And to take borrowed a word from Trump, we want to make Penn Hills great again. And she says, listen, can you see it if we had a street where we had a couple of houses and we had a park where kids could play and everybody could be how it was when we were out here playing hide and go seek and freeze tag and kickball and football, telephone pole to telephone pole, and street hockey. Remember those days? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I said, Delili, you dream too small. Because while you're saying one street with one park, I'm saying all of Penn Hills. And so now I'm dedicated, because he's saying, go back and do more. So plug in with the police chief, plug in with the principal of high school, plug in with any business owner who wants to plug in and tell them and teach and help and coach and mentor and just be there as somebody that somebody can call. And Delili set down this challenge. She said, you left, but you haven't been back in 33 years. Now that you're about to retire, this is in August. How about you come back? I said, you know what? I'm back. And she said, what? I said, no. I'm back. And so I bought a house. It's about 20 houses up the street from my mama's house. And my mom and dad live at an address on Mark Drive, and I live right up the street. And I'm back to help. And some people don't see it like that. But I know why I'm here. And I know what he's talking to me, because he wakes me up every day with resolve, and he sends me out on my way. Today I was in Penn Hills High School. I met Dr. Ford yet again. And Dr. Ford was telling me, hey, get your background check and we'll see what we can do. Jay's plugged me in to help coach volleyball. I love coaching. I love lead, guiding, directing young men and women to other places, because I had a beautiful start, and my foundation all started from Penn Hills, where I had amazing teachers who not only taught me how to read, they taught me how to lead. And I owe everything that I am to a place that I love called Penn Hills. And that's why if you see me, it's always Penn Hills all day. I've created fashion designs, at least 3 right now, that all just have Penn Hills on them. And what we're trying to do is make Penn Hills as great of a place to be, of a destination as it once was. People used to talk with revere about Penn Hills, and I'd like to see that again, because I know the people of Penn Hills, and I know who we are and what we've been to each other. We help lift as we all climb, and we help move forward, and we help each other get to exactly where we need to be. Jay invited me to the Hall of Fame inductee of 2022. And I said, I know that it's probably not politically correct, but we are Penn Hills Indians. And so we led a chant in the Hall of Fame of Penn Hills Indians. And it just gave me goose pimples down my spine every time I saw people yelling Penn Hills Indians, because for most of us, this is where we're from, and this is the place that I've grown, the place that's been my foundation. Patty was the person. Patty was the person who said, "You need a bank account, baby." And she said, "Go down to that PNC bank, get a bank account, put your money in the bank, save 80% of your money, you spend 20." I got a Mac card.
Yeah, Mac card.
And I was off to the machine.
And what's going on July 9th?
So in July 9th, and thank you, Jay, for asking that, because I'll get off on that tangent. July 9th, we're back in Penn Hills. We're starting a community cleanup, and probably one of the most challenged parts of Penn Hills in reference to some place where there needs a pick-me-up. Like I said earlier, we often...
little facelift.
Yeah, just a little pick-me-up.
Yeah.
Just a little pick-me-up. We often talk about lifting as we climb. And as we've gone on, and as I've moved on in this world, I've had the wonderful pleasure of building communities. And it all starts with a community cleanup. And this community is no different than any other community, any other place, any other township, any other municipality of any other city. And if you can pick up this water bottle that's on the ground, then you can pick up a person that may have laid down or may have been needed a pick-me-up. And so on July 9th at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're going to start with a little pick-me-up.
I'll just stay up.
Yeah, just stay up.
Yeah, I can't get up then, but I'll stay
Just
up.
stay up. Don't go to bed. Just stay up and just join us.
Yep.
Because it's going to be important. Because there were people in Penn Hills that don't believe that our community can pick itself up.
Mm-hmm.
I just believe that they just haven't seen it before. And it's just not been their experience. But it has been mine. And I've had the wonderful pleasure of picking up communities over and over and over again. And once they start to pick up that one water bottle, they start to pick their head up, and they start to feel good about themselves, and great things start to happen right behind a community cleanup. So I'd like for anybody who can hear this podcast and anybody who wants to be there just for an hour. You don't have to stay more than 5 minutes. Just show up and pick up one can, one bottle, and just be a part of the amazing community cleanup and a part of a revolution that I believe that can happen in Penn Hills, because we're all from Penn Hills. And if you're not, well, that's where you live at now. So come on back and let's help out wherever we can.
I appreciate that. And Doug, we will definitely have you back, because that's your most important story.
Thank
You know,
you.
when you hear a story like that, and it's really, I mean, okay, so, you know, God did let you go through a stroke. Okay, so it wasn't like you responded the first time God, whispered in your ear.
Not at all.
But yet, being as headstrong and as a leader as you are, for you to finally relent is a great testimony. For you to say, like, all right, God, good. You know, you made a deer speak to me. All right, I'll follow you. You know, all the medicine and everything else. Like, God's the only one that could heal you. That is the most important story, and I think it's something we all need to realize. We can try to pretend like we're in control as long as we want, but we all come to a moment when we realize we're not in control, and you can choose. You want the blood pressure 200 over 112, or do you want to finally say, okay, God, you win? But we didn't get into a billion other stories and relationships. I mean, you could probably tell some police stories.
Absolutely.
You could probably tell some stories about, positive community policing, which is what you're so passionate about.
It's wonderful.
And part of the solution to what we're experiencing right now.
Yes.
But I'm grateful for you to share.
Yeah.
That you shared
Thank you.
so humbly and so specifically how God slowly but forcefully drew you in.
Yeah, incredible story.
Great story.
Can't wait to have you back, though.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd love to be back.
And that's it for episode 159. We are looking to have Ethan Herr on next week, so stay tuned for that. Please make sure to give us a like or follow on social media and visit us at lunchtimeinrome.com. While there, take a relational needs questionnaire. Thanks for joining us at the table for Lunchtime in Rome.
See you next week.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Be there, be square.